Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Good day, Wild Hearts. Shireen here. I am your bookkeeper and QuickBooks advisor. If your business is in the food and beverage industry, then you are known to have one of the most complex books ever. You need to make sure you are recording your tips, tax, credit card sales, cash sales, and your third party correctly inside your books. You probably have payroll and multiple payroll runs with multiple employees. Everything needs to be separated in its correct accounts. You, as an owner, don't have time to keep your books accurate. That's why you need to call Shireen's Bookkeeping Services today. If you want to know more, go check me out at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and allow me to keep your books clean so you don't have to. Welcome back. You are listening to Friends from Wild Places, episode 1 of season 2. I am your host, Shireen Buerta, and I am excited to introduce my co-host. You've heard her voice before, and you'll be hearing a lot more of her, Tanya Scotece. I'm so excited to have you here, Tanya, and I know the listeners have heard a little bit about you already. But please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about who you are, what's going on in your life, and what is happening right now.
Thank you so much, Shireen. So yes, for the listeners who do know me, my name is Tanya Scotece, and I currently am the program coordinator at Miami-Dade College in Miami, Florida, as the funeral service education program director and also a full-time professor. My blessed work, as I like to call it, is helping families who have loved ones who can no longer live alone, specifically with one of the dementias, for example, Alzheimer's. And I also work as a senior placement specialist in that capacity. So my new mission and voice is to be the voice for the voiceless. And I really try to help people, even with expert witness testimony in legal cases for cemetery and funeral home wrongdoings for the decedents who may have been wronged. So that is my new mission as of today. It is being the voice for the voiceless. And again, thank you, Shireen, for having me on your podcast and being part of it, and looking forward to this journey together.
I absolutely am so excited. You heard it, listeners. This is season 2, and that is your new co-host, Tanya. And I can say her surname. It's Scotece. Am I right, Tanya?
You got it, Shireen. You got it. I'm still learning it myself.
I appreciate you, Tanya, and you have such an amazing heart, and you do such amazing work. And you and I are close, and I'm excited to have you. This is not only a time for us as professionals to get on here and to share a little bit about our professions, our interests, our ups and downs. This is also for other professionals that are listening, other business owners that are listening. They can be inspired. If this is something that they want to get more into, then we will definitely have those contact details in the show notes for them to reach out to the specific people. But really, this is a time for inspiration and for sometimes just chit chats, which is most important. And as well as we do feature a nonprofit every week. So not every week, every month. Tanya and I are committed to that nonprofit for the month, which we will talk about a little bit later in the show. So we do have a quote today, and it's from our very own Tanya Scotece, and I would like you to tell me what it means to you. So her quote that she has for us today is, "Life is a caption of yesterday, a speculation of today, and an acceptance of tomorrow. Tanya, share with us what that means to you.
So thank you, Shireen. So that quote I actually wrote when I was 17 years old and I was graduating high school. My birthday's at the end of the year, so I graduated at 17 back in Connecticut. And I was just empowered by those words. And for me, what that reflects is basically, we're all evolving, right? We all are moving, we're all growing and learning, and we all have trials and tribulations that we face, sometimes each day. And for me, that quote just is a really symbolic and metaphoric to say that we can look at yesterday, right? We can look at yesterday, we can learn. We have time moments that we can identify that are very powerful, almost like moments in time that you'll never forget, and what we can do to look forward for the future. So for me, that quote, and it's interesting, I just started by saying that I'm going to be the voice for the voiceless. And at that time, I didn't have a voice. I actually put my quote as anonymous. I didn't even put my name attached to that quote. So it was in my high school yearbook back in 1986. And when I graduated from mortuary school in 2005, I actually had that quote again in my mortuary yearbook with my name attached to it. So for me, it really resonates. I just live the quote, I preach the quote, and everyone that knows me, I will help anybody that needs it.
I love that, Tanya. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's definitely inspirational. So thank you for letting us share the quote as well on the episode and sharing it with the world. So listeners, today we do have another visitor on the show, and I'm excited to introduce to you Selena Respass, more specifically Professor Selena Respass, who is a professor and educator of criminal justice in Florida, United States. Please go ahead, Selena, introduce yourself a little bit more.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I hope you can hear me. Tanya and I are sisters. We come from another mother, but we are still sisters. And we have formed a professional women's group, that meets to support one another at Miami-Dade College. My interest and my push is violence prevention. And I'm just over the top with it and meeting up with Tanya and understanding what she was doing. I just said to her, well, she said to me, we need to be thinking about how we can have our students who are in my program be a part and move forward into yours in regards to the students receiving their bachelor's degree. We're not just talking associates, we're talking about bachelor's. My passion is violence prevention, sexual assault awareness. I just have a list of what I want to do. And right now, what I'm focusing on or pushing for in regards to my business is professional athletes and their particular behavior as it relates to social media and what they are doing in regards to their professional careers. Because we all have to remember that athletes start at an early age in regards to becoming proficient in regards to what they do, just like Tanya did, just like I have, and I'm sure you also, Shireen. So my thought and my focus is that what I need to do is I need to make sure that athletes understand what their position is in society and how they are encouraging other people to do what they need to do in order to be successful. Now, we just have one athlete, I won't mention their name, that, I just found out that they may be suspended for a year. This is their second infraction. They were moving into the third, and the commissioner of this particular league said, enough is enough. So that's where my focus is. And like I say, Tanya and I are colleagues. Like I said, we're sisters. And so we share a lot of information. So we are moving forward in regards to making sure the School of Justice and what she does in mortuary science and funeral services combined so that students can have an opportunity if they want to go into criminal justice or the School of Justice or the School of Business at Miami-Dade College.
Yes. I love that. I really love that. We've got two people here, listeners. Tanya's got a background in forensics, as well as our visitor, Selena, is a professor in criminal justice. So you can only guess what the topic today is going to be about. I'm very interested in this topic. I thoroughly enjoy it. And me being a little bit of a geek in the department, I do love to watch true crime. One of my best places to go is on YouTube. There's some channels like Law and Crime where they feature current criminal court case recordings that they release to the public to watch. And for me, that is so interesting to actually observe and also to see what's actually happening in our world right now. And so, my first question really to both of you ladies is, do you watch a lot of true crime? I'm sure you don't need to. I'm sure you see a lot of this or hear a lot of the current situations that are going on around you in Florida and so on and so forth. But do you watch a lot of true crime? Tanya, you can go first.
Sure. So I personally, I don't have a TV. I have not watched TV since I was in mortuary school. However, as a professor, it's important that I stay up on current events and current cases. So I do like to relate what's happening in the real world to my classroom. So I do spend quite a bit of time on YouTube's finding, significant cases that stand out. And my background in forensics is interesting because usually for a case to go viral, there usually is like 7 components that make it that way. For example, people are getting murdered every day. People die every day, all across the world. And whether we like that or not, that is the reality. However, there are certain cases that become sensationalized. And if you look, for example, historically, let's just look at, like John Benet Ramsey case, O.J. Simpson case. Some of these cases go viral where other folks like die and there's no mention. And it really has nothing to do with the fame or fortune that preceded their death. It's just there's several components to make it go viral. So yes, I do spend a lot of time trying to find cases that our students can collaborate on, discuss, have a really nice interaction and walk away with a different perspective. And Selena, what is your take on that? Do you watch the TV? What's your take?
Well, I do all of the above. And my perspective is like for my students, I tell them I have 2 lists for them: race, money, politics, history, and location. And then the other list is like who, what, where, when, why, and how. And my attitude is like if they can answer those 2 lists, then they should have no problems. I don't care if it's criminal justice or any other type of discipline they want to go into, because they need to have all the facts. They need to understand exactly what's going on. And right now, when you watch the news, it's just like, everyone talks about race. Everyone talks about like where it happened, but they're not really getting the perspective in regards to, what happens after this crime or incident happens. Now, I watch MSNBC. I do. And it's on right now, but it's on silent. But I'm looking, I'm saying like, okay, fine, another death has happened in another city. We've been dealing like with this, like, for the last several months. No, over the last year. How can you have like, 250 deaths, if not more, within a 6-month period? And see, Tanya's a wonderful colleague of mine because she has to deal with death and dying. I'm trying to teach the students like how to stay out of that and not be engaged with it, even though I love her and everything. She's wonderful. She's a wonderful colleague and sister. I'm just like saying, my students need to be kept abreast on what is happening in the real world in real time. That's what I give them. And so Tanya and I have been working on with our college to have students have a business and a criminal justice perspective, enabling them to understand both sides of what we do.
Yeah.
Tanya does one thing, I do something else. And I think we went and we spoke to our academic dean to say, this is something that we want our students to have. We want them to graduate with a bachelor's degree, not an associate's degree. They might want to like get into their own business, become entrepreneurs and whatever they're going to be doing, but we want to give them that opportunity.
Yes.
And so my perspective for me, I'm just like into violence prevention. I don't care if it's sexual assault. I don't care if it's suicide. I don't care if it's police brutality. I'm into violence prevention. I don't want any human being on the planet to get hurt. And so I'm very conscious of that. And that's what I try to relate to my students, and opposed to my dear colleague and sister, like I said, she's dealing with the end. What happens at the end?
Right.
And so that's why she's such a wonderful force for me when I'm teaching my classes and I'm talking to my students. I said, do you know what happens if this happens? Death is the end. And then there's another group of people that have to take on the bad task of informing the family what's happening, what procedures are going to be made, because it's not just about you dying. There's a procedure, and I know Tanya could talk about that, that has to happen
Yeah.
after that person is, pronounced or
Yeah.
no longer on this earth. So it's like it's deep enough for me to get into, and I understand and respect like what she does, but she respects like how I teach my students on how they have to think outside of the box. I think it's very important for the world to think outside of the box. It's
Right.
just not about oh, a life was taken, but do you know what happens after that life is taken? You know the procedures, you know what the family has to go through, and so we are working on, like I said, something that our college can adopt. Our students have an opportunity to do. If they want to do criminal justice, they could do it. If they want to do forensic science, they could do it. If they want to do mortuary science, they could do it. Have them have an opportunity to, because I believe like our students need to make sure they get their bachelor's degree. Nothing's wrong with getting an associate's degree. But I'll just tell you, coming from the Northeast and my attitude, I'm a New Yorker with a New York attitude. You need, you need your bachelor's degree to move forward in anything you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to relate to my students.
Selena, so from your perspective, though, when you hear like these current cases of violence, domestic violence, what is your thought as far as like, your work and mission as far as preventing it? And yet we have cases that we see, like, YouTube, the news, and things like that. So what are your thoughts on when you hear, for example, there was a recent case in Boston, Massachusetts. Gentleman killed his wife. She went, was reported missing at work. Everyone appears happy. New Year's Eve party, everything is great. She goes missing, and then they find, all the Google searches about purchasing cleaning supplies, how to dispose of a body. What is your perspective of that as far as society? I mean, like we're in, the year 2023, and crimes have been happening for many, many centuries. What is your take on violence prevention from where we are right now as a society?
You know what? Thank you. You're God sent to me. That's what I want to say to you. But I would say mental health. I was just watching something. I'm watching it now. Mental health. No one pays attention, like that young man that was choked to death on a New York subway. That should have never happened. They knew that he had issues and they didn't help him deal with it. And he was a minority, and he was like transgender or, gay, whatever. It does not matter. He was a human being. And people don't think outside the box when it relates to that. Because someone is acting different or they're not like really within your perspective, that doesn't mean that they deserve to die. That doesn't mean they don't have a family that cares about them. But when you fall through the cracks as it relates to society, that's a different message. And so what I try to instill with my students, you have to like do my two lists: race, money, politics, history, location, and who, what, where, when, why, and how. How did this happen? How can we have 260 some odd cases within a 4-month period of shootings? We just had in Hollywood, 9 people were injured. I don't know if one was killed or not. Just this past weekend. And people just like trying to be out. We have beautiful beaches in Florida. We do. I'm just like saying they are just trying to enjoy themselves, and this happens. Why did it happen? How did it happen? Are we paying attention? I don't really think society is paying attention. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all these issues that we're talking about. I don't care if you're black, white, blue, green, orange, or purple. Everyone has the right to live. no matter what their station is in life, because you don't know unless you talk to them. And that's why I talk to my students. And Tanya laughs at me every time I say it, but she knows. I tell my students I'm available 28/7. Oh, no, no, no. I know there's only 24 hours in a day. I do know that. But they might need me for something outside of academics. Homeless, somebody slashed their tires, they don't have any food in their house, they need books. There's stuff they need outside of like what I'm trying to teach them. And I have to be available. And I am available. They have my cell phone number. I'm not going to give it up to you. But they have my cell phone number. And they could call me. They say, "Oh, Professor Respass, we thought you were sleeping." I said, "I know you did, but I'm awake." And that's how I deal with mine. And so working with Tanya is such a wonderful experience because I could do like, violence prevention, sexual assault awareness. I could do all that. But with me establishing the business, I said, I need someone that can talk to people about death and what happens after all this stuff happens. And, Tanya was my only guru that I knew of that could come out and talk about what happens after a person who has been killed, what happens to them. And people don't get it. They don't understand that. I'm sorry if I talk too much.
No, 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 no. You are so good. And these are the topics we're going to be talking about. It's the interpersonal violence, domestic violence, suicide. So, my question to you, Selena, is if we're in situations, and I'm so glad you brought it up, Tanya, because there is also the other case that happened in South Africa where a very popular Paralympic, Oscar Pistorius, very popular,
Yes.
wonderful
Yes.
man. He got gold in the Paralympics. He had a beautiful girlfriend named Reva Steenkamp.
Yes.
Stunning couple, perfect on the outside. You would never think anything is wrong. And I remember 2014, Valentine's Day, it hit the news that Reva Steenkamp had been shot dead in the bathroom where she was trying to find an escape and to a safe place. She ran into the bathroom, and at first they thought it was an intruder because that's what Oscar was claiming, but only to find it was Oscar that shot through the bathroom door and killed her. So what I want to ask you furthermore is, when we're in those situations where it looks so perfect on the outside, we're sitting in a controlling and manipulating partner situation, what can we do to keep ourselves safe? As they say, it might be perfect on the outside, but it's what happens behind closed doors that counts.
For me personally, my attitude is like, speak to people that you care about. Let them know if you're feeling up or down. If anything is going on, let them know. Just like, be honest. And usually, if you get to that point, that means like you've gotten to your worst end. But they will, if they care about you, be able to help and guide you out. But you gotta like say something. Like if Tanya comes up, she say, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm not feeling well today." And she'll say, like, "Why?" She'll ask me questions, the right questions, like the list I gave you: who, what, where, when, why, how, what's going on. And so, with us being professionals, we have to like always be on point because that's what everyone expects us to do. And so, like when I say, like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, I'll say, like, "Oh, I'll send out a text message saying, like, I'm thinking about you. Give me a call." And they know Selena doesn't usually do that, but it must be something that she needs. So we have a great sisterhood here in Miami that works with one another, supports one another in what we're doing, be it personally or professionally. And I think that's great. We are the BBC sisters. I'm not gonna tell you what the BBCs stand for, but
Tell me now. What does BBC stand for?
Should I tell her? Should I tell her, Tanya?
I think it's a kid-friendly radio podcast. We'll say another time. We'll say another time.
I'll text it to you. Send me your email address and I'll text it to you because
Okay.
I just want to, what it is a support group for faculty and administrators, female at Miami-Dade College. It's just like really weird how it came up, but we were missing someone. And so we thought of having a group that could support administrators and faculty together. and it's working out pretty good. And we get together, we support one another no matter what's going on, and it's really cool.
I like that. And I just wanted to extend to that point that you were making. And I agree, reach out. And many times that does work. But there has been recently a situation, a similar case where I think it was Tim Lifnick. If I'm saying the name wrong, I apologize. But he was on Family Feud and he ended up killing his wife. But a few weeks before, even a week before it happened, apparently, the wife sent a message to her sister and said that if she dies or something happens to her, then it's definitely her husband. And she's not sure when it's going to happen, but he's going to lose his mind. And if I'm disappear, then I am dead and he's killed me. And so I wonder, if that works in every scenario about reaching out when you are in such a toxic environment.
Are you oh, go ahead, Tanya. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so one area, that I like that Selena mentioned was the signs, right? As far as like things that are happening and having the chance to reach out. So and I am no means a psychologist or anything of that nature. My daughter, that's her specialty, Shireen. We got to get my daughter on the podcast too, from mental
Definitely.
health perspective. So, but from my personal journey and from what I know, there's some key words that I think can maybe help the listeners. And one is codependency, and one is narcissism. And codependency and narcissism go hand in hand, to where if you find yourself in a relationship that you somehow think that this person is end all be all, and like your life is now revolving around this person that you idolize. And I know domestic violence can go both ways. It can go from male to female, female to male, cross genders. But right now I'm speaking of these words. It's from traditionally women who have low self-esteem, who grow up wanting that Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas fairy tale, that somebody's going to come save their day, come on their white horse or ship or whatever they're going to take you away on, and we glorify that, right? And that's all races, all genders. It's like everyone's looking for that person. So what happens is, if you have codependency issues and you have somebody that's narcissistic, it is like, and from a chemistry perspective, it's like an explosion. The woman all of a sudden drops her friends, leaves everything for this quote unquote guy, becomes immersed, and then it's like a conquer and divide. And
Yeah.
I have been in situations, and I've lived through them, and some of them were very turbulent, involving the police, involving restraining orders. So I lived the journey. I haven't seen it all, and I would never profess to, but I've seen a lot. And sometimes I think we get flattered by the attention, especially in my much younger years. Now I consider myself an old wise woman, but I just think there's so much on that aspect of it where we give away our power, and we allow ourselves to be controlled, and then you may feel like you have nobody to reach out to. And then I don't think social media helps much, because
No.
whatever people are doing and posting, it looks wonderful and perfect. In the meantime, people are trying to hide their black eyes. They're trying to put themselves together because they've been up all night crying. So I think the conversation goes so deep with the mental health, as far as how did we get here.
And
Right.
I'd just like to add something to that before you come in.
No, no.
The other thing is, like, we have to understand and figure out whether or not people who are involved in these situations, where's their self-esteem? Where is it? Now, I come up with a high self-esteem. I don't think I'm a queen or anything, but not too far away. So I'm saying, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing? I bring something. What are you bringing? And see, women don't do that. Oh, he has money. I love the lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. Forget that. Have your own stuff. You don't have to worry about that. You have to learn these skills. And I was talking to some friends of mine from high school said, "You've always been like this, Selena." I'm like, "What? No, I wasn't." They said, "Oh, yes, you were." What are you bringing forward? What are you offering? Okay, I have something. What do you have? But a lot of times, these relationships, like when you hear about athletes and them hurting their significant others, whomever, male or female, doesn't matter. What's happening here? Who is in control over this? And that's why you have the craziness that you see on TV sometimes about a man clocking his girlfriend in the elevator and then dragging her out.
Mm.
I watched that. I was like, whoa, what happened? And then she married him. What does that say? Lifestyle, low self-esteem. Now, I hate to say it, but my self-esteem is in the stratosphere. I know that. I deal with women who have high self-esteem also. And Tanya can tell you, she thinks that all the time. And when she walks into a place, oh, she knows this one, she knows that one, she knows the other. That is true. But they understand like how I work. And my attitude is like, no one can take, advantage of me because I hate to say it, this is a public forum. Mother said, listen, don't get arrested, don't get pregnant, don't drop out of school. Any of those things, you cannot come back home. keep it moving. You have to have that type. My mom, crazy woman. Anyway, God love her. She told me that, and I never forgot. I said, "Oh no, no pregnancy, no dropping out of school, and not getting arrested." And that's what saved me. And I got scholarship to go to school for my bachelor's and my master's degree. But I'm saying, like, come on. And I
Nice.
think that's what the problem is. People who have low self-esteem really don't know how to deal with the situation. But those who don't have anyone to reach out to, what they need to say, like, who can I talk to? Who
Mm.
can I trust? And you have to build that up. That's what
Right.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I mean, before I go into a little bit of a Buzzsprout advert, and Tanya will probably go and ask the next question, but the original question where I asked you, what can we do to keep ourselves safe in those situations? I was there. I went through a couple of these situations. I'm not going to go too much into it. The problem is not only self-esteem, but once you pass that point, it's like of no return. So I remember even when my friends were realizing what was going on and they were shouting on the sidelines, leave, run, get out of there, go, I stayed. I chose to stay. I kept on over and over again saying, yeah, but I love him. Yeah, but he'll stop. Yeah, but he would never really hurt me, and it's whew, not only a mixture of low self-esteem, but your identity is actually taken from you. You're isolated in a lot of ways. And that's, you lose who you are. You lose what you want. Everything revolves around that person. And so you don't think you deserve anything better. So there comes the low self-esteem. So what you ladies are saying is 100% true. And the answer to this question is very, very hard to answer because reaching out is not always the answer to getting out of situations like these.
Well, I hate to interrupt you on this one, but I
No, go
would say
ahead.
this. I would say this. The circle that you're in, if there's something wrong, they pick it up.
Mhm.
And if they pick it up, they'll start asking you questions. And so my attitude is like, please have the right answer. Because if not, that's when the full force happens. And like I said, we have this women's group, which is a dynamic group of women. And, the administrators, their faculty. But if we pick up something, we ask the questions. And they are willing enough because they trust us to tell us whatever we need to know so we can help them or assist them or whatever. And I mean, like, being a professor or being an administrator, that's not an easy job. But then when you're dealing like with craziness at home, that doesn't help you at all. But knowing that you could, like Diana Ross, I'm Black and from New York. Thank you very much. So Diana Ross, but reach out and touch. I'm that old, so I know.
Right. No,
You have to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tanya.
no.
Yeah, no, and I think the deeper conversation is again looking where it starts. Because I think anyone that's in a situation thinks it's going to change. Oh, they brought the flowers. Oh, they said this, the words. And it becomes like a game of, like, almost like a ping pong game. You try to back away, they come on stronger. You try to leave, they promise you this. And before you know it, it's like a vacuum. You literally just get sucked in, and you don't even know what to do. You don't even know right. And people can be screaming, as you said, Shireen, from the outside, saying, leave, this person isn't for you, they're not good. I'm going to almost describe it. It's like an addiction. It's like that rush of emotion, like that high and low. And before you know it, the situations are, I mean, as women and or men, or however anyone identifies, you could really be at risk for harm, for physical harm,
Yeah.
emotional harm. And that's the conversation that we came on here today, was to address these violence, domestic violence, prevention of violence. But I think so many women, I know a few right now that are in relationships that from the outside looking in, you're like, leave, just close the door and leave. And it's like, but he loves me. He said he loves me, or he did this. And it's like, instead of trying to change him, it's like we only say, you can only change yourself, right? You can only change yourself. And I think that's where, whether it's free counseling, free services, paid therapy, workshops, there's many different types of groups, but people have to hear it. And if people don't want to hear it, they stay in this spiral thinking it's going to get better. And most of the time, from my experience, it doesn't. The only one that's going to get better is the person who gets enough strength to leave.
Right.
All right, my thing, I'm sorry to interrupt because this is like, oh my God, this is awesome. I think it starts when you're little. I really do. And how you recognize how your parents got along and what was going on. And I got it, I'm the oldest, so I got it right away. And my parents weren't getting along, so they got divorced when I was 15. And so I understood the dynamics in regards to, what you need to do in order not to be in this situation. Because you have to pay attention. That's what I tell my students. You got to pay attention. And I paid attention. So for any relationship that wasn't working well, I said, I got to go. See you later. Move right along and do what you do. And sometimes you just have to say, okay, fine. How do I really feel about that? Did I make the right decision? But you just got to move forward, because no one has the right to make you feel that you're not a decent human being and you're trying and giving your best. And when you see those situations, you just got to say, like, I got to go. I got to go. And thinking about, your own self-esteem and your own well-being, whatever you have to do, you have to, because you're a human being. You're not just like some rock. Rocks have their own spirit. Thank you very much. I believe that. But you're not just a rock that somebody could just like throw away and that's it. Not everybody gets it. Say, oh, I need him and I have the children. No, because you and the children are in danger. That's why you need to think about what you're going to do and move forward. And you have to identify, if you can, a support group or a support person that will help you walk away. If you just don't walk away like that, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
But like I said, I learned early being the oldest. My mother used to say, if you deal with anyone that's not treating you well, you got to go. I got it.
Right. Well, ladies, let me just pop in here with a Buzzsprout advertisement and we can continue the conversation afterwards. It's a hot topic and we are going like a Boeing, but let me just pop in here and say, here at Friends from Wild Places, we use Buzzsprout. I started this podcast to share stories from other business professionals, share their knowledge and interests. Most importantly, to bring support for young entrepreneurs all over the world, or sometimes just to chat. I feature nonprofits every month to try and make a difference and give a helpline to someone in need. Do you have a message you want to share with the world? Or maybe you just think it'll be fun to have your own talk show. Podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. To start your own podcast, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and helps support our show. So I just want to pop in here. Tanya, I know you have a question here that you're going to ask, but I just want to say, if you're listening and you're in a situation like this and you don't know where to go and you think you don't want to burden yourself on anybody, so you remain quiet, please don't. Please don't remain quiet. You are not alone. There are other people that have either been in the situation before or are in exactly the same situation as you. So reach out to us, ladies. Here we'll have all our details in the show notes. So before I forget, I just wanted to say that you are not alone. You do not have to stay in it. We've all been through it, some of us more than others, and please reach out. So yeah, sorry, I just had to say that. Go ahead, Tanya.
Thank you, Sheree. So, one area that as a funeral director and as a professor, I share this conversation often with them is when someone takes their own life, right? When someone decides that they've had enough and they commit suicide. And I've handled many families. I had the youngest girl was 11 years old, and I had all the way up to, I believe, 78-year-old gentleman took his own life, and that's the age span. And I just sit back and I just say, when someone commits suicide, everyone around is like in shock. Like, how could they do that? Why did they do that? And I almost take a different approach. And maybe because I've been in funeral death care for so many years, it's like, why are we shocked? Like, what are you shocked about when you like, well, they looked okay. So the question is, well, what does that mean?
Look,
They look okay, right? And I love, talking with my sister Selena about Miss Universe, right? Miss Universe, okay, African American, beautiful, educated, okay, world by the string, okay, from everyone's viewpoint, beauty, brains, looks, everything, culture, everything, top, 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 and literally takes her life. Okay. And she is one of many. And I'm just using that as an example to say, when we look at people like that, it's like, wow, how could somebody in that position? You looked at actors and actresses and musicians and people who seem to have it all together. And when someone takes their life, we're like, how could that be? They looked okay. So I want all the listeners, when we make these statements, why did they do that? They looked okay. What does okay look
you
like?
look like.
What does depression look like? Okay, look, like, what is the smile behind the face? What is the makeup and the hair to create the look? So I think, sometimes as women, we grew up not trusting women, right? That's a very common theme amongst people that I know. And I'm not male, so I don't want to speak for the men and the listeners, but females tend to like not trust anybody. And we're waiting for the Prince Charming to come along. And that Prince Charming may be kind of like sleeping with the enemy kind of thing, to where you're putting all your eggs in a basket that is not in your best interest. So, I want the listeners, and I would welcome both Selena and Shireen, to really hone in on it. Why is there such a surprise when we hear of violence? It's like they looked okay, they looked fine. Okay, so Shireen, what is your thoughts on that? And we'll go to Selena.
Yeah, the funny thing is I automatically think of, and I don't know if you ladies know of him, but on Ellen DeGeneres, there was the DJ. His name was Twitch. He's a dancer. That's where his career started, was So You Think You Can Dance. And he was then in a lot of movies. Step Up was one of the movies that he was in. He's an amazing dancer. He married one of the dancers on So You Think You Can Dance, a beautiful family. And when you saw him on Ellen DeGeneres' show, he was always so happy, so positive. If you followed him on his TikTok or his Instagram, he was such an inspiration. And I think that is a brilliant word to describe Twitch. He was such a positive inspiration to the people around him. And there was no signs. He literally said, I'm just going away. And he went to a hotel and he unalived himself by shooting himself in the head. He left a note as well for his family, but no one saw it coming. And for me, it actually broke my heart so much, because it felt like he was fighting this all alone, and he didn't show not even a blink to anyone outside of his bubble. And I can only imagine the demons that he was facing. And to a point where it got so bad that he was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And then unalived himself. It was just so heartbreaking. I actually shed some tears over it, because that's how much of an impact Twitch has made on the people that he inspires, and the people that are his followers. And I absolutely, as a ex-dancer myself, I absolutely love Twitch. So it was very sad and very shocking. And as you said, Tanya, no one saw that. But yet again, what determines what that would look like? There's no answer to that, because depression and anxiety looks different on each person. And so where someone will openly admit, I'm struggling with depression, anxiety, someone else will absolutely not even show a sign of it. So it's very different. People wear it differently. And so that's very hard to answer. And that's very hard to pinpoint or help in those situations.
Well, I just like to make a comment.
Of
You have
course.
You have to be nosy.
Yeah.
I am nosy.
Yeah.
I am nosy. I'm like, what's going on with you? Oh, I send people messages, and if somebody writes me a message, and like I send out messages all the time, and if I get one, that's like, that message came right on time, because that's what I needed at that point, and I've done that. So I can't believe it. This message is exactly what I needed. People need to know that you appreciate it, and so I say thank you a lot. Why is she thanking me? I was thinking about her. Why is she thanking me? Because they thought enough of me to send me a message like that. And it was at that moment I needed it. Not later, but then. Tanya and I have gone through this, like back and forth. Like, she'll send me, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I needed it at that moment. She sent it, and I thanked her for it. But she's not the only one. People know, say, oh, we know you, Selena. Yeah, they do. They say, something's not right. Let me send her a message. They be sending me messages and everything. But I'm just saying, you know, when you feel it, in your heart, you have to just like reach out and say, I am feeling this way. And what you need to have for the person who's sending out the message is for them to respond. If they don't respond, then there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you doesn't hurt.
Right, right. And I always appreciate you, Selena. I know we go deep. But Shireen, I want to follow up with a comment that you made. So again, you stated the observance from your perspective and the emotions that it resonated within you. And it was like, well, what do we do? Because everything seemed fine. So I'm going to take a different approach, and almost like, as people, finish our podcast today, and they go about their business and listening, it's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone looks happy, right? They could be on the verge of suicide, right? They could be. So it's almost like we can't let anything that looks okay, just because maybe people are living in a nice house or driving a nice car, or they look okay, or they seem to have everything, that living the quote unquote American dream, as we say in the States. That illusion probably couldn't be further from the truth for a lot of people, right? So I almost would say, like, regardless of what people look like, regardless of where people work, regardless of the jobs, we almost have to come from a point of that everyone might be facing some challenge. And that challenge may not be obvious to a spectator. It may not be obvious to a listener of someone's music, or to watch somebody dance, because again, we're looking from the outside in, right? We're not walking the walk with that person's journey. So for all the listeners and us in our bubble here, Selena and Shireen and myself, I just hope that, we can also, as Selena says, pay attention, right? And don't get enchanted because people look okay or people seem okay, right? Because that's what trips people up, literally. Like, that's what trips people up in the head, because it's like, well, they looked okay, I didn't know, right? So I think that, to me, is the essence. And as a funeral director, I have buried probably, I don't want to say the richest of the rich, but people with very amounts of wealth. I've also dealt with indigent, people with nothing. And you know what? death comes to everyone, right? And it doesn't mean we have to think about it, but the suicides always leave such questions behind to the family members. What could I have done differently, right? People spend their whole journey wishing and wanting that they had answers. So my focal point for the voiceless is to use all of our moments here that we have to check on people, right? And maybe if somebody does look too good, maybe ask them, hey, what's going on? Everything okay? Right? And maybe you will find people that are really just living life and doing wonderful things. But I just know I've sat across thousands of families in my day. And when you're dealing with domestic violence or suicide or any type of unexplained, untimely death, the questions that are behind that person are just monumental. So I think, as people, right, as women, and again, not to exclude the men out there, but I just think, to maybe rewrite the story from when kids are little and not to glorify some savior coming by on a, horse that's going to be all end all, and, really try to rewrite that story, right? Rewrite that story to empower people, men, women, however people identify, into really coming into their own, to where they're not glorifying a relationship. They're not glorifying another person. Because I think that at the root of it, and again, I'll go back to codependency and narcissism. It's like a match and the flame is off, and it's just, you literally can feel like you've hit the point of no return.
Well, I just want to chime in on that one. And that's why it's important for us to teach our children. If you could believe this or not, I've taught, daycare, kindergarten, elementary school. I didn't do high school because I thought I might hurt somebody. Anyway, and moved on to college. But children know and children get it. We just have to teach them how to, get there so they can understand. No one should be picking on you. No one should be calling you names. You need to make sure you know your mom's first name, last name, their address, and their phone number. And they're not, it's just like mommy and daddy. That's not working. You have to start that early so children have a clear perspective on them and their personality, how they're supposed to act. How they're supposed to act, because behavior is taught.
Right.
If they see craziness going on in the house, they get it. Like I used to talk to my students. I'll share this with you. You're gonna laugh, right? I had a drug counselor come into my class, my kindergarten class,
Right.
and so he came in and he said, "How many of you know someone who uses drugs?" My whole class raised their hands. I said, "Put your hands down and your heads down now." And I told the drug counselor, "You got to go. you got you got to go." He was like, "Miss Reston," I said, "You got to go." They all raised their hand. I said, "Listen."
Right.
When he left, I said, "You can sit up now." When people ask you questions like that, you need to keep that to yourself. Or if you want to tell me personally, you can. Other than that, some people, they raise their hands, all of them. I had 30 students in my class. I said, "How many of you know someone who uses drugs?" They all raised their hands. Put your heads down. I said, I'm sorry, you have to go. We have to do this another day. These were kindergarten students. I'm telling you, it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I said, like, holy tamale, kindergarten. Oh, my aunt smokes this, and my so-and-so do that. I was like, oh, God. No, I can't have that. You got to go, Mr. Counselor. You could come back when you're in first grade. But I said, you can't be telling all that information. And I told the parents the same thing. I said, you need to watch what you're doing because they come and they tell me in the classroom. I'm just saying, it starts like when you're little.
Yeah.
And how you perceive yourself being. And, like I told you, I always knew that I had to be on point because I was the oldest. My mom said she wasn't taking, my mom and dad weren't taking anything from me. And so I got that. So I never acted out in school because I didn't want my mother to come to school. No, 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 no. That would have been a mistake.
Oh,
Because
lady.
I understood what the rules and regulations was. But I want to just say, this has been such a wonderful experience for me. I'm just so happy to have met you, my sister from in South Africa. Thanks to Tanya, who is my dear and esteemed colleague. This has been wonderful,
Oh,
and I
well,
appreciate
listen,
you having me.
I've got to pop in here because again, this topic and conversation is really, really meaningful. And I'm sure I love what we're talking about here. And I love the fact that we went deep with no boundaries. So I just want to pop in about the nonprofit of the month. we wanted to mention that it's going to be single stop. So Tanya, tell
Oh,
us
wow.
about
Awesome.
single stop. Yeah,
Yes,
so go ahead,
yes.
Tanya.
So single stop is
We have that at our, yes,
near and dear to my heart.
yes,
We do support it at our North Campus at Miami-Dade College.
yes,
I would like to mention Sarah Garman and Dr. Sharon Plotkin. Both, they're both just extreme advocates for our mission at the college, for prevention, awareness in so many different facets of what they do in their work mission. And Dr. Sharon actually works with Selena. Dr. Sarah Garman actually spearheads Single Stop. And both of those missions, in addition to Janet Mapp, are just providing nutrition and access resources to students. Specifically for us at our North Campus, we support the food pantry with tangible and monetary donations and student access for resources.
yes.
So, for example, anyone that's in crisis, providing counseling to both students and faculty. So that is our nonprofit for the month that we are choosing rather. So thank you,
I love
Shireen.
that. Yes, no, absolutely. Single stop it is. It's the nonprofit of the month. We're going to have all the information in the show notes, including a place where you can donate. So,
Oh, awesome.
right. So Tanya and myself are coming together as friends from wild places, and we're going to gather our monies and put through a nice donation to Single Stop, and we encourage you all to do the same. We're talking about turning your face from yourself and what's going on in your life and turning it elsewhere and putting it where there is a need and where there is a answer for that need, and you can
Yes.
supply it. So go ahead and make those donations. We really encourage it. Single Stop is amazing. They do great work.
Yes.
And I just want to move to the last part and a little bit of a light-hearted cultural kind of twist to the podcast. But just to end the topic on this, I want to say that if we live in a world, a very selfish world, where we are so wrapped up in what's happening in our own lives that we forget that there are people suffering. And as you say, they can be the happiest of the happy people, and we will never know. And so for you just to turn around to someone else that even might be the happiest of the happy and ask them, how are you doing? And yes, of course, they might even say, oh, fantastic, things are awesome. You know what you can still do? How can I make your day better? What is the one thing that I can do for you today to make your day better? Think of something, anything. I want to try to do something nice for you today. Go a little step further for everybody, not just some people. Everyone's suffering, the happy, the sad, the obvious, the non-obvious. So really, guys, you are not alone. If
I
you're
think what I found is like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
no,
didn't mean
no,
to
go
interrupt
ahead.
you, but my thing is like what you need to do is when you think about someone, let them know that you're thinking about them. I just like send them. I was just thinking about you for the moment. Hope your day is going great and move on.
Agreed.
And when people don't expect it, it's like, did she really send me that? Yes, she did.
Right. Nice.
You know, the surprise, the like I was thinking about you today. I have students that I send happy birthday wishes to. And they're like, she really remembers my birthday? That's important. Everybody's birthday is important. That's why, like, when I'm thinking about it, if I'm thinking about Tanya, I was like, oh, let me send her a note. And I just like, I think you are the most glamorous, wonderful, blah, 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 blah person in the whole world. And I do that. And she's like, did she send me that? What time was it? It was 4 o'clock in the morning. Yep. Got up, thought about you, and I sent it. She knows I do that stuff all the time. But it's
Wonderful.
important to let people know that you think about them and you care about them and thank them for supporting you because you never know when you are really going to need the support. But if they think about you, you know that you got their support, and that's important.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Thank you, Shireen, so much for having us today and being able to share a piece of ourselves. And for all the listeners out there, if something has resonated with you, maybe something in your life's journey doesn't feel right, please reach out to some of the resources that you may have in your area, or contact one of us and we can provide some direction also. Again, none of us are licensed mental health counselors nor therapists, but we'll do our best to provide the
Connect you.
resources for you to connect you. So yes, so
Yes.
thank you.
Absolutely. All right, ladies, we've got to the share a little bit of a cultural difference time of the podcast. So because I'm from South Africa and you guys are from the USA, I thought it would be nice. And Tanya actually gave me the idea of talking about a little bit of our cultural differences growing up with the different movies, television, and computer games we used to play. So thank you for the idea, Tanya. I think it is a fantastic add to the podcast moving forward. So here's my question, ladies. What did you grow up with? When it comes to movies, television shows, computer games, what did you grow up with, Selena?
I watched everything. I was definitely into Disney. I was definitely into Disney and Looney Tunes and, Wonder Woman and Superman and, all that stuff. I wasn't into soap operas because I wasn't allowed to watch soap operas. So that was for the adults. But, Sesame Street, I love Sesame Street. I love Sesame Street as an adult. But, growing up with that and having
Right.
the opportunity to, like, just like be in New York City, man. I went to dance school, job school, you name it. I went. My mother kept me busy. When I finished and I went to college, I thought I was on vacation. That's what I thought because I was involved in so much stuff. But, growing up in New York, it's different than growing up in any other place in the world. Then moving to Boston, going to school in Boston, and then moving to Florida, a totally different experience. But I would say that, I watched everything that was on like TV because TV was not with me growing up like it is today. They kept
Right.
things clean. Now you can see anything on TV that you want to see, and it's just like, whoa, but that's not what I watched. Let me see, Looney Tunes, and I watched, like I said, Disney stuff. Just I can't tell you the number of times I watched The Wizard of Oz. I mean, I know everything that happened with Dorothy. So I'm just, so
What
I'm just
about computer games? Did you play any computer games
no,
growing up?
no,
None.
none, none,
Wow, isn't that interesting? All
no,
right.
none, no computer games.
What
No.
about yourself, Tanya?
So for me, grew up in the 80s, and all my students know that because I always play 80s music for them. They're probably like, oh no, here she goes again. But I grew up with General Hospital was the soap opera. I
Oh, me, I
love,
watched General Hospital. Yeah.
and as a younger person, like the Smurfs, Zoom was popular. I grew up idolizing like John Stamos, just
Oh
having
yeah.
people fan clubs. Like that was, Rick Springfield. Like that was kind of concerts were big. And as far as computer games, I mean, I started with Pong. That's how way back I go. Okay. So like the dinosaur, Pong, and then the Atari, Pac-Man. I still to this day love Pac-Man. If I'm around an arcade, I'll definitely spend a few dollars with Pac-Man, Asteroids, and Space Invaders. So those are my top three. And how about you, Shireen?
Oh man, it's got to be when I got home from school, I loved to watch the Kiddio. Kiddio was one of them. We had like biker mice from Mars, Power Rangers. I I also liked Liewe Hexie, which is an Afrikaans children's program at the time. Liewe Hexie, which is translation is loved witch. And so no, it sounds so strange. It was this little tiny little witch girl that was a little witch, and she had little animals as her friends, and it was Afrikaans, and it was cute when I was a little girl. And anyway, the strange things we used to watch. But computer games. I had a video game with the old TV box and the thing that gets attached into the back of the TV, the box. Yeah, I used to have video games and I used to watch, play Pac-Man and Mario Brothers.
Oh,
Yes, 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 yes.
See, we're not all not too different. We definitely touched base. I think each of us had something we were like, oh, yes, I just see that. I watched that.
Yes, yes. It's just interesting what, what we consider. And sometimes, we think just because we do it, we think everybody else does it. So when you come together from a cultural perspective, it's interesting to say, well, that wasn't my experience, or I didn't have that, or, so I think it's always great to collaborate and connect. And as always, friends from wild places, right, Shireen? So
Right.
it's awesome.
Right. Guys, this has been amazing. It's come to the end of the podcast, and
Oh no.
I know. And I'd love just to take some time just to say, as I said, people, if they want to reach out and find out more about either your profession or about one of the topics we spoke about today, whether it be domestic violence or suicide, you are more than welcome to reach out. So, Selena, where can they find you if they want to reach out to you?
What do you want me to give you? You want me to give them my email address?
Yeah,
My college
whatever
email
you're
address?
comfortable with. Yeah.
Okay. I could do the college email address. Or I could give you my my regular address. And that would be capital S, ELENA, lowercase, Respass, RESPASS3 @gmail.com.
Perfect.
And my Miami-Dade College one is like Respass @mdc.edu.
Love it. Thank you, Selena. And what about yourself,
No,
Tanya?
thank you.
So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. It's like my home away from home. So some people, if they're on that forum, can actually just send me a direct message on LinkedIn. Or if you prefer to contact me directly, my email is Scotece, and that's SCOTECE @mdc.edu. And my personal email is Tanya, TANYA, 8828 @AOL.com. The original dinosaur. So thank you so much, Shireen, for having us
Thank
today.
you for having us.
I love it. Thanks, ladies. And for the friends from Wild Places, you know where to find me. We have the YouTube channel. If you want to watch and you want to listen to us at the same time, it's Friends from Wild Places. We also have the podcast, which is what it is. It's a podcast originally, so you can go and download us from any of the major platforms, iTunes, Deezer, Spotify. We are on all of them. So go and download. If you want to leave a review, please go ahead, leave a review. Tell us what you think. You can also go and support our show by going to friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. That's friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. That is the official website. You can go and support us there. But other than that, you can find me, Shireen Buerta, and my business at LinkedIn, Shireen Buerta. And guys, Selena, Tanya, you ladies are absolutely amazing. It's such a blessing to have you on this channel. I'm so grateful. And for the listeners, thank you for listening. And we see you next time, guys. And remember, you got this, and stay wild. Bye.
God bless. Thank you.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Buerta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.